Welcome to another episode of our series about going from version 5 to version 4. So this is the level 2 material. So this episode is specifically about doing Ajax forms and posting, form values from JavaScript to a base extension in Umbraco to enable that you have JavaScript powered forms instead of using user controls. So for this session we'll enable comments on status updates. So that means you'll have a more threaded conversation, so you could reply to a status update and show these updates in your stream. Also, we'll use jQuery to perform these Ajax form posts. I've already predefined the jQuery stuff in here before because it's nothing that's specific to Umbraco. So we'll just go through the different scripts to see what to do. And finally, we'll use base to receive this data and create the different status update comments in our tree. So let's close the slides and open up our Visual Studio solution. So just to go to what we want to do, so this is our stream here. So what I want to do is I want to be able to click the comment button here and then create a node below this one here. So in our tree structure in here, I'll want to be able to have statuses below my current statuses. There's no reason to create a new document type. We'll keep on using the status update document type because that already contains all the things that we want to have. So the only thing we really need to do is to ensure that we have some HTML in place and some jQuery in place to do this. And of course a server-side extension that can receive this data from JavaScript and create the needed documents. So let's go into our developer section and look at our list posts and see what are already defined in there. So down here we have a comment reply as well. In there we have a comment reply area here, and that area contains a text area and a input button. So these two, this one here will contain the actual comment, and the button here already contains a reference to the comment or status update that we're commenting on, which it does over here on the rel attribute on the button itself. So this is the ID of the post that we are commenting on, and then the text area will just contain a string that will post back. Below here we have a helper that will list all the current status updates of the current status updates. So that means that we'll have a threaded view. The thing that powers this is that in our Razor we have up here in the root we have a way of getting the root of the page. Then we're calling posts with a collection of posts and a ID, and then down here we have a helper call posts, which will take a post collection and then go to it. So we're doing that recursively. So inside of our posts helper here we are again calling the same posts helper down here. So for each status update, test if there's any status updates and then do the same thing over again. So nothing new in the Razor part except for this two down here, text area and a button. In the JavaScript department we can open up level2.js, and in here we have a input.post comment. So this wires up to the button you saw before. In here it gets the parent and it finds a text area, and then it finds the value of that text area. So that is the value s here. So that's the string we get from the text area. Next we get the ID of the item that we want to post to, and that is get from the rel attribute. So down here we need some base URL to receive this data. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're basically posting a ID and a comment to this URL. So let's make sure that we do that correctly. So let's close down Umbraco here, because what we need to do now is to create a new REST extension. So we add a new class to the base extensions folder and call it comment form. So in here we need to mark the class as a REST extension, and that is under Umbraco presentation, Umbraco base. For a REST extension you need an alias, so we'll call this comments, like so. And inside of the public class we need a public static integer, and we'll call this create. And in here we'll have a integer and call it post ID. Actually, it should be status ID. That's more correct. Status ID. So the method here needs to be attributed with a REST extension method as well, and we want to say that it should not return XML. It should just return a simple string like this. This should be all that's needed. So in here we need some data. By setting up a REST extension called comments and enabling the create method as a REST extension method, we allow the method to be called directly from a URL that base will create for us. So this will be accessible on the base/comments/create/the status ID that we want to post to. So in here we need a member, and we get that from the member class here, where we can say current member ID. So that's the first thing. We need the author of the post. Then we need a name of the comment, and again we'll just use the same convention as we've used so far by just taking a current date time and taking the text and doing that as a string, so we just ensure that we have a unique name. After that we need a document type. We need a type to define what kind of content that we are creating. So we are saying dt equals to document type, and this is under Umbraco CMS business logic.web, and here we can say get by alias. We already have a status update document type, so we'll just use that again for this. Then we also need a user, because we need something for the audit trail, because you need a user for everything you create in Umbraco. This is under Umbraco business logic, like so. And that is all we need. So now we need to actually create the actual document, which is let's see, why is this not working? Represented is a type. Oh, it should be a new user like this. There we go. So we now can create the new document. So var comment equals new document. Oops, it's not a new document, it's actually document dot make new. Sorry. And in here we can then input the name, and we can input the document type. We can input the user, and we then need the parent ID, which is the status ID. Like so, because we get that from the actual URL up here. So now we create the comment, and the comment then needs a post property to be set. Again, this is defined because the status update property called post is defined in the document type already. So we need to set some sort of comment in here. We'll do that in a moment. And we also need to say comment.getProperty member ID equals value member. So we already got that from up here. So then we need to say comment.publish, so it's published right away. We need the user for that as well. And finally we need to tell the Umbraco runtime to update its cache. So Umbraco.library update document cache, and then we need the comment.id for that. There we go. And finally, just to return something, we could return the entire post if we want to and render that. But let's just keep things simple and return the comment ID, so we know that we're getting something back. We could always extend on this and actually render it based on values returned, but let's just keep it simple. So the only thing we're missing is the comment up here, and let's just go back for a moment and look at how the jQuery is wired up. Because in the jQuery here, when you click post comment here, we actually send a form value called comment set to the value of the text area here. So we need to look for a form value called comment in the request collection. So to do that, we say var comment equals to the current HTTP context. And in here we have a request collection, and in here we look for something with the key comment. So this is posted by jQuery. Oh, and we probably just have to say this is a comment value like this. So here we set this to the comment value, like so. So just to reiterate what's going on the server, we get a member as an author, we get a name of the comment we want to create, we get the type of the comment, we get a user for the audit trail, and finally we get the value for the comment field from the request collection called comment. So if I build this, we now know that base has a URL called base/comments/create, and we'll use that URL to post from the form. So let's edit the JavaScript to actually reflect that. So it's comments/create/the ID of the status, and that's what we find up here, and then we pass in the comment value from the text area here. And finally we'll just alert with the ID that we get. So finally, when this is done, we can simply go and refresh the stream in here, just to refresh the JavaScript. And if we are in any luck, we should now see that if we comment something, we can say, hey man, love the comments, whoop to you too. We get a ID back of 1100. And if we just refresh here, we now get the comment down here. And we get the correct author, and we get the correct comment, and we also get an avatar in here. And if we look in here on the updates, we can see that it's correctly created as a status below the status. So that's how it works. We could try to just run this in debug mode, because then we can actually just set a breakpoint here, like so. So if I do this again, and open up here, we can see that the breakpoint is hit. So we are running this REST extension method because we are posting to this URL, which will trigger this. So in here we get the different values in here, and here we have the request, and we can find it in here. So that's all there is to it. We run this, and we get the 1101 comment back. We can refresh the stream now, and we get this one as well. So that's how you do Ajax forms. You need a bit of knowledge about wiring up base using REST extension and REST extension method. But in here, as soon as you're actually inside of the extension here, it's all the same. You use the same document type and document APIs to create these things. And these are based on the stuff that we did earlier with setting up the status updates. So nothing new in this as well. So that's simple Ajax forms using base in Umbraco 4.